Taiwan, a country I'm proud to say I'm from. In my career as a media entrepreneur, I've spoken to movers and shakers here who make global headlines. But what I'm most excited about are the up-and-coming forces of my generation. They're young, they're creative, they dare to defy the status quo. Follow me as I meet emerging leaders of Taiwan who lift us, who inspire us, who are changing the world, starting in Taiwan. This is Game Changers with Emily Waiwu. My name is Emily Waiwu, and welcome to a new episode. I'm on my way to meet our game changer today. Her name is Vivian Chen. She's 27 years old. She's from the southern city of Taiwan called Kaohsiung. When she was 20, Vivian bought a plane ticket to India, and there she visited a shelter, and that changed her life. Since then, she's been a delegation representing Taiwan at the UN and at Apec. For fun, she volunteers at an NGO working to empower girls and women. And today, she's working on social impact. She's trying to solve equity through technology. I'm on my way to see Vivian. Come follow me. Welcome to the show, Vivian.
Thanks for having me.
Vivian, to change the world, you had to first see the world. So take us on that journey. So I want to go back to the moment where you enter the United Nations. It was 2017, New York City. You're 22 years old. You're still in college.
Yeah, I was still in college. So basically, I participated in this competition for youth delegate to UN, and I lost actually on the first year. And after 1 year of intern and working on a lot of paperwork, research, study, I eventually got into UN. And I was told that it's really hard for Taiwanese to get into the UN building because like all these regulations around.
So for Taiwanese, it's impossible to get into the actual United Nations building because as Taiwanese, we're not part of the UN, so we don't get to go inside the building. So you're there, you're at the gate, now you finally have the pass. What was that moment like?
Got a pass, it was like unbelievable. I didn't even think that I would get a pass. And they took a photo of me at that moment. They took a photo like right after they decided they wanted like stamp. Yeah, it's kind of a small office like in front of the building. But anyways, once they stamped me for approving me to enter the building, they take a like quick photo of me. It was like so bad.
Bad photo.
Bad photo. But it's a pivotal moment, so I saved that ground pass, and I kind of want to keep that for the rest of my life because that might be the only time I enter UN.
What did that moment feel like for you after you finally walked in?
There's like all these different flags of different nations hanging out there on the ceiling, and you walk in, you see all these different people from various of countries walking in, talking in different languages. It was the first time I was in such an international environment. And I got into all these different meeting rooms, like hearing what people are talking about. So it was a meeting mainly for women's empowerment, like it's a commission for status of women. People are talking about honor killing, migrant workers. Like these are the issues that are not at all highlighted, like migrant workers maybe right now, but not at all highlighted in Taiwan. And these are issues that I've never had access to. And being there, listening to people's, like hearing people's story and see how these are not just issues to them. These are not just a cost to them. It's life. They are fighting for their rights to live. And these are people who actually live through that violence, that tough situations and still survive and decided that they want to do something about it.
Vivian, why is it important that we're part of UN discussions?
Like, oftentimes people would ask me, like, Taiwan is not one of the members in United Nations. Like, how are you attending this, and how is that important for any of us? It's actually quite important because there's already so little opportunities for Taiwanese to actually participate in all these different international events and all the organizations. And these are where the important conversations happen. And those important conversations often lead to policy making, the policy that would actually change how the whole world works. If we are not a part of that, it's really possible that our rights would be left behind.
So after you came back from the UN, you stayed with the foundation that you worked at. By the time you were 23 years old, and you joined a part of the delegation from Taiwan to Apec. For the next 2.5 years, you're working with global economies, the US, Canada, Japan, Korea, the Philippines. You're negotiating with, you're in the room where policies happen. You fought for Taiwan's policy to be on the agenda. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You negotiated funding for projects that Taiwan wanted to do as a part of APEC.
I kind of feel like I was on this mission for our country. Like, I'm representing the country I'm from. I'm doing the thing that I would never imagine doing.
You were 23 years old.
I know.
Give us a sense, how do you go from, I'm a college student, and then all of a sudden, I'm in a really important meeting at APEC. What does that preparation look like? How did you do this overnight?
I didn't study this in college, but I believe that we all have the ability to learn on ourselves. So I actually read a lot of books, like scroll into the past statements, understanding the whole mechanism, holding this book on how APEC works like every single day and writing all the notes on it, trying to make sense of it, and actually writing articles about it so that it means that I have output, that I really understand the thing. Yeah, I studied a lot. Like every day after work, I would force myself to read at least like 5 articles or 5 statements from APEC's like past agreement, past meetings. I think the one single source of like motivation about learning anything is the passion for that subject. Like the mechanism, everything, these are all so boring. Like it's like, who do you report to when this happened and what happened when you can't use this line and whatever, like that's super boring. But when you have the passion, that makes it interesting somehow.
And what was Taiwan's message at the time?
Like Taiwan values all these different diverse issues a lot more than some other countries. But Taiwan would send out people that actually work on like gender equality, energy, agriculture, like people who are actually in the working space to all these different places. And I kind of sense that it shows how we value all these opportunities for us to showcase what we've done.
Okay, so you're talking about you're describing what it's like to be in that room.
So for APEC, every single year you go to like kind of different country. I was in Papua New Guinea, I was in Chile, and there's like Vietnam, Malaysia, and all these different countries. Even though there's like 21 economies in APEC, there's developing economies and developed economies. You can like soon realize how different it is, like how different all the environment is. Like in Papua New Guinea, there wasn't even roads before APEC. Yeah, they built the roads, they built the meeting center, and they built a lot of things for APEC. And all these different countries are just fighting to get into the organizing group to help Papua New Guinea on that, because it means they might have some agency in that year, even though they're not the host. So it's kind of a power game, even during the preparation.
Wow, that sounds like, to me, that's really, really exciting work, to be in that room, to be talking to all the different delegations from the different countries. But for now, I wanted to turn our page to 2017. It was actually during this time that you were volunteering on top of your work, on top of you flying around the world, negotiating with global economies. You were volunteering in Taipei at a global NGO. You were training girls from age of 12 to 60 on entrepreneurship and technology. Really, really admiring work. But it was also around this time that you quit your job as an official delegation from the country. Why? What happened?
So the global nonprofit I work with is Girls in Tech. It's a nonprofit set in the US from San Francisco. What I learned from all these people is that there's a lot of possibilities and things move really fast in the technology world. Like people can build a product within like 2 or 3 days. And compared to the policies, the statement we were working on, which takes like 2 years or so many, like plenty of years to just agree on something really tiny where you don't even know if it's gonna affect any of the decision any of these global leaders make. I started to learn more about technology, and I was introduced to blockchain. How blockchain is actually this like tools, this technology that is rooting for democracy, a more decentralized world, and a world where people have autonomy. I like that vision, and I feel like I can do something with that. I feel like I can do something with technology, so I quit.
So you turned to tech, and you mentioned blockchain, which sent my head spinning. So you're gonna have to explain what that means to me later. Well, so let's take a break. And when we come back, let's find out from Vivian what it means to go from the UN to Apec and now blockchain. Welcome back to Game Changers with Emily Waiwu. I'm Emily Waiwu, and this is a show where I talk to emerging leaders of Taiwan who are making a difference in the world. Today, we've been talking to Vivian Chen. Vivian's journey from the United Nations to Apec to volunteering at a local NGO turned to a surprising twist. With a job that most would envy, she decided to quit and go on her own. And this time, she's changing the game. Vivian, there's something about the beginning of your journey that I want to turn to. So, we're back in Kaohsiung in Taiwan. You were 20 years old. You bought a plane ticket for yourself to India. You visited a children's shelter. Why did you go?
So it was actually the first time I'm ever abroad.
The first time you went abroad?
Yeah. I choose India, which is somewhat challenging, and yeah, but I actually saw like all these different documentaries about child laborers and how it is in India. So child laborers are basically the children who are taken or sold to the factories.
How old are they?
Many of them are taken when they're like 5 or 6 and rescued when they are 16 or 17. So in their entire life, there's no opportunity for them to actually get access to any education. When the children were rescued, the shelter would help them with their lawsuit with their employers and help them find their parents if possible and ask their parents if they want the children back. And sometimes the parents reject it. So we were there basically, I wouldn't say helping the children, but just spending time with them, because what I think they really need was the ability to trust again, because they have this like really like huge doubt for human beings in general, because they were taken when they were so little and they need to work like 16 hours a day and only get paid like on average $2 like US dollars each week. And a lot of them are working actually in something that's super dangerous. Like these are places where adults can really get in, like sewer construction site.
So you were there for about 2 weeks?
I was there for about 2 weeks.
There was a story you told where you were working with the students, the children. I say students because it sounded to me like a class. You were teaching them to draw. You asked them to draw a picture of what they wanted to be when they grew up, and they couldn't do it.
They couldn't do it. All of these are all boys, like old boys. These boys are all, they're so confused. They don't quite capture the question I asked them. They don't really know what to draw and what to do. And what I realized was it's actually hard for them to imagine the future, because none of them were taught what's out there. So imagine if we have no knowledge on the outer space. Would anyone want to be an astronaut? Maybe not, because we don't even know the outer space is like. It's not that they don't have the potential. It's not that they don't work hard enough to be a teacher or a scientist or whatever. It's that they don't know that's something they can do. And they have no faith in themselves that they can actually do things. And then one of the children came to me, he was like a class lead. He came to me with his picture drawn. So what he painted is himself in front of a blackboard teaching. He wanted to be a teacher. And I asked him, why do you want to be a teacher? Like, why is this the future you imagine that you want to be in? And he said, I don't want these children to be like me. I want them to be able to imagine what's out there for their life. And that was the moment that really hit me. Like, the inequality on education and opportunities are actually limiting their potential. They are the hardest working kids I've ever met. Like, they're so responsible for whatever task we gave them. They're so good, so highly potential, but none of the opportunities were given to them just because they don't know anything about them. And if they don't know, how can they fight for it? How is it possible for them?
What did you feel at that moment?
I feel like I need to do something. There's no anger, there's no sadness, because I know that's what the reality is like. And I kind of feel related to that because growing up in Kaohsiung, never been abroad, I know there's a like really competitive world out there, but I'm not a part of that world because I've never studied abroad. I've never been exposed to like these amazing opportunities. I need to fight for that thing, but I'm lucky because I got a chance to know what the world is like. So I kind of feel related and feel like I'm actually just like them, but I'm just a slightly luckier version of them. And that inspired me.
You're inspiring me right now. You can't see it, but I'm like, this is happening. And then imagine this is the effect that you have on people. I'm truly inspired. It's been 7 years since that moment. You've been to the UN, you've been to Apec, and now you're back to working directly with charities. And this is really interesting because when you told me this, I was head scratching. It's blockchain, what does that even mean? What do you mean that you're trying to solve equity through blockchain?
Oftentimes, the people who I work with, these are people that are so discriminated by financial institutions. By discriminated, I mean because they are living in a less wealthy environment, because they live in a remote countryside. It's hard for them to travel to the place to actually get the things done, to get themselves a bank account. Or it's just hard for them to get an identity because not every country has like thorough identity system like Taiwan. So without those services, it's actually very, very difficult for them to save money and accumulate asset. And the lack of ability and tools to accumulate assets, it's one of the key reasons why these people can't move to another social status, why they're still stuck within where they are.
Ultimately, to the person that needed help, they don't retain kind of that power.
There's actually two layers of it. One is that not enough funding is actually going to these people. And it's partly because many of the foundations are actually taking like some of the operational fees. The other part is that they are not literate enough, like financially literate enough to have the ability to do so. And there's a part of infrastructure, how we build that infrastructure that actually favor their behavior, like how they use their money, how they accumulate assets. So that's a part. And there's definitely a part of partnership, how we include more people into this ecosystem so that it's not just us working on it, it's actually everyone working on it, and to create a more robust environment where these people are actually accepted instead of being discriminated. So there's a lot of things we can do, but we're kind of like setting out like different milestones and trying to get things done in a really solid way.
But also imagine this is the type of projects that would feed back to the UN system, to UNICEF, to global foundations.
That's my That's my dream. That's my dream. Yeah, I don't know if I'm just making wishes here, but I do
Please,
hope,
wish away.
wish away. Okay, I do hope the system, the infrastructure we create will eventually enter the UN system or the global foundations so that it's like wider usage and wider awareness and wider, yeah, just people adopting the idea and actually using things to solve the problem in a larger scale instead of just us working here.
Well, this sounds like a really good dream. Well, I wish you the best of luck, and you're already rocking the world, and I look forward to so much more. Now, before we let you go, there's one more question that we ask everybody.
Okay.
In your journey, how much of this was given to you versus how much did you have to fight for?
I think there's definitely a large part that is given to me, especially that I'm so lucky to be born in Taiwan and living in this environment where I have all this convenience and access to education, access to all these opportunities. And I don't know if I can get what I had in other places. So I'm grateful for that. But there's definitely also part that I earned, that I fought for myself. I think that's the opportunities. For example, when I was fighting to get into UN, I failed the first time, but I still managed to hold on to that opportunity and try to get myself in, and eventually I got in. But it was like a year after. So don't just give up easily, and it's okay to fail once in a while. But you just need to know that there's always gonna be like all these obstacles you're running into, but it's okay. You rest, you get up again, and you fight for yourself.
Thank you for coming on the show today to telling us your story. I admire how hardworking you are and how you continue to make opportunities for yourself and now going on to changing the world. Thank you. All right, folks, wherever you are in the world, I hope one day you'll get to meet Vivian as well. Maybe you stumble onto the show by accident, maybe you've been inspired, or maybe you too are a game changer in your country. Please get in touch with this game changer, Vivian Chen. Thank you for watching the show.